I didn't plan on stopping there. The gas station wasn't on my map. It wasn't on any billboard. And if the sign hadn't flickered right as I looked up from the road, I probably would have missed it completely. I was somewhere between states on a long Thanksgiving road trip, hours deep into a stretch of highway where the exits get rarer, the towns get smaller, and the radio fades into static one station at a time. The dashboard clock was creeping toward midnight. The sky was a flat, heavy black. I'd been driving long enough that the white dashed lines felt less like markings and more like a quiet metronome ticking out the miles. Then, through a break in the trees on my right, I saw a crooked burst of red light. A faded sign leaned beside a narrow access road, half hidden behind bare branches. One cracked tube of neon still sputtered the word GAYS. The rest of the letters were dead or missing. A smaller board swung beneath it on a rusted chain, creaking every few seconds. I glanced down at the fuel gauge, saw the needle sitting just above a quarter tank, and did the math I always pretend I'm too tough to do. I eased onto the turnoff. The access road was short and rough, the pavement patched in different shades like it had been fixed a piece at a time over the years. My headlights swept across an old cinder-block building with a flat roof and two pumps standing out front like they'd been planted there decades ago, and ignored ever since. One buzzing light burned above them, casting a pale yellow cone over the concrete. I pulled up beside the pump and turned off the engine. As soon as the car went quiet, I noticed how complete the silence was. No other cars, no hum of distant traffic, just the electric buzz of that single light and the soft ticks of my engine cooling down. I stepped out, swiped my card, and started the pump. The November air was sharp and dry. I could smell dust, old gas, and the faint resin of the pine trees pressing in at the edge of the lot. Somewhere out in the dark, a dog barked twice, and then stopped. Inside the station, behind the smudged glass door, I could see a narrow aisle or two, coolers humming along the back wall, and shelves with the usual road snacks. Behind the counter stood a thin guy in a faded flannel shirt, his attention turned toward a small TV mounted high in the corner. When the pump clicked off, I set the nozzle back and locked my car out of habit. I told myself I'd just grab some water, stretch my legs, and maybe rethink the idea of sleeping in the driver's seat. The bell above the door gave a weak jingle when I walked in. Warm air hit me, carrying the smell of burnt coffee and lemon-scented cleaner. Something older and heavier sat under it. Cigarette smoke baked into the walls, maybe, and that metallic scent old buildings pick up over time. The clerk looked over when he heard the bell. Up close, he looked like he'd been standing behind that counter a long time. Late 30s, maybe early 40s. Narrow face, dark hair that could have used a trim, tired eyes that weren't unfriendly, just dulled by repetition. I grabbed a bottle of water and a candy bar mostly to justify being inside, then set them on the counter. He rang them up slowly, fingers moving with the boredom of muscle memory. "Long night?" he asked finally. "Yeah," I said. "Thanksgiving run. Trying to make good time while everyone else is still at home yelling at each other. Might crash in the car for a bit before I keep going." He paused with his hand on the receipt, like he needed a second to think about how he wanted to respond. "If you're comfortable," he said, "you can sleep here. Nobody bothers this place." The words should have sounded reassuring. Instead, they felt like a warning that got stuck mid-transformation. "Yeah," I said. "That a good thing or a bad thing?" He almost smiled, but it didn't quite make it past the corner of his mouth. "Depends who's looking for you," he said. I let out a small laugh that didn't feel as casual as I wanted it to. "Far as I know, nobody." "Then you'll be fine," he replied, and slid the receipt toward me. Back in the car, the cold had settled deeper into the seat and the steering wheel. I locked the doors, let the seat recline a little, and cracked the window just enough to let in some air. The buzzing light above the pump cast a crooked halo over the hood. The rest of the lot faded into soft darkness. I closed my eyes, telling myself I'd just rest them, not really sleep. 20 minutes, half an hour at most, then back on the road. In the side mirror, I caught a sliver of movement. The clerk walked to the door, flipped the sign from open to closed, and began turning off the interior lights. One by one, the familiar glows disappeared. The coolers, the ceiling fixtures, the blue flicker from the TV. The inside of the building turned into a dark rectangle. He stepped out, locked the door with a twist, tugged it once to make sure, then walked along the side of the building and vanished around the back. He didn't glance toward my car or the pumps. The station was dark now. The only light left was the buzzing fixture over my head. For a few minutes, nothing else happened. The lot stayed empty. The trees moved softly in the wind. My breathing slowed. Then a new glow appeared in the rearview mirror. At first, it was just a smear of light between the trunks of the trees, low and uneven, like someone carrying a lantern down the narrow access road. As it drew closer, the glow steadied and separated into twin beams. Headlights. They came down the access road slowly, angled a little too far down toward the ground. Before the vehicle reached the edge of the lot, the beams snapped off. The engine noise remained, a low, heavy rumble. A pickup truck rolled into the station with its lights off, big and old and squared at the front. The kind of truck built before anyone cared about aerodynamics. It moved with the confidence of something that knew exactly where it was going. It didn't pause by the far pump. It didn't swing toward the store. It pulled straight into the circle of light and stopped beside my car, close enough that I could see the texture of rust along its wheel well. For a vehicle that size, it idled quietly. I couldn't see the driver through the dark glass. No phone screen glowed inside. No music leaked out, just that engine, steady and controlled. I didn't need a second opinion from my instincts. The message came through loud enough. I inched my seat back upright, slid the key into the ignition, and turned it. My own engine came to life with a small shudder. I kept my eyes forward, shifted into drive, and eased away from the pump. By the time I reached the edge of the lot, my pulse had climbed into my throat. Once my tires found the highway again, I pressed a little harder on the accelerator. The station shrank in my mirror. The building and the pump dissolved back into darkness. The truck stayed parked there, a blocky shadow at the center of the light. I didn't wait to see if it stayed. The highway ahead looked the same as it had half an hour earlier. Blacktop cutting through trees, broken only by the occasional reflective sign, but it didn't feel the same. Every small shape on the shoulder looked intentional. Every curve felt like it might be hiding something. I'd gone maybe a mile, maybe slightly more, when the car bucked hard. There was a thick, solid thump from underneath the front end, followed by a grind that rattled the steering wheel. My foot hit the brake. The tires shrieked. The car slid, then caught, then skidded onto the shoulder in a spray of gravel. Hazards on, engine off, heart working overtime. The flash from the emergency lights painted the trees and the road in slow red pulses. I grabbed the flashlight from the glove compartment with fingers that didn't feel entirely steady and stepped out into the cold. The beam cut across the asphalt. A few yards behind the car, lying diagonally across my lane, was something big. It had the shape of an oversized duffel bag, or maybe two stacked together and strapped tight. Dark fabric, sagging in the middle, bulging at the ends. It didn't look like road trash. It didn't look like something that had accidentally tumbled out of a truck bed. It looked like it had been put there. Big enough that a driver going the speed limit would struggle to avoid it. Big enough that you'd have to stop to deal with it if you cared about your car. I took a couple of slow steps toward it, my boots crunching on scattered grit. The closer I got, the less sure I was of what I was looking at. My brain kept searching for the right word and coming up empty. I raised the flashlight a little, trying to get a clearer look. That's when I heard it. An engine, far enough away that it was just a growl at first, but getting louder, coming from behind me, from the direction of the station. I turned. Headlights snapped on, high beams immediately, flooding the road in harsh white. For a second, everything was washed out. The trees, my car, the dark shape in the lane. Then I saw the familiar outline behind the lights. The pickup, same squared front, same height, same heavy stance on the road. It closed the distance quickly and braked hard just behind my car. Gravel jumped under its tires. Both front doors opened almost at the same time. 2 men got out. They didn't call out to me. They didn't ask if I was all right. Their eyes didn't even flick in my direction. They were looking past me, at the thing in the road. The first walked straight into the lane, boots sharp against the asphalt, and stopped a few paces from the object, hands on his hips, studying it. The second moved along the shoulder, passing close behind my car, gaze fixed on that same dark bundle. "He hit it," the second man said, voice low and flat. "Right on it." He wasn't reporting to me. He was confirming something to the other man, like they were checking off a box. That was the moment everything in me chose a side. There was a version of this night where I walked closer to them, asked what was going on, maybe offered to help move whatever that was out of the road. There was another where I stood there too long trying to make sense of it. I didn't pick either one. I stepped backward, slow and steady, until the cold metal of my door pressed against my back. The men stayed focused on the object, like I'd already played my part and didn't matter anymore. I opened the door, slid into the seat, and shut it with more force than I intended. My hands shook as I jammed the key into the ignition. The engine caught. In the mirror, I saw them now closer to the bundle, their shoulders angled toward each other as they spoke words I couldn't hear. I didn't wait to hear them. I put the car in gear, pulled onto the road, and pushed the gas. The tires slipped on gravel for a breathless half-second before finding grip. The pickup's headlights shrank quickly behind me, then dropped out of sight around a shallow bend. I kept driving until other cars appeared, until overhead lights marked exits, until I felt like part of a crowd again instead of a lone variable in somebody else's plan. From a bright, crowded parking lot an hour later, I called the police. I told them about the old station, the clerk, the truck idling dark, the object in the road, the 2 men who never once checked on me. The dispatcher took notes, asked her questions, and said they'd send someone to clear whatever I'd hit. About an hour after that, my phone rang again. "Highway Patrol," a calm voice said. "We ran that stretch you described." "And?" I asked. "There's nothing there," he replied. "No debris, no bag, no stalled vehicle. Just your skid marks. Road's clear." I thanked him and hung up. I know what I saw lying across that lane. I know what I felt under my tires. I know those men climbed out of that truck and walked toward that bundle like that was why they were on the road at all. None of that shows up in the report. There are versions of that night I can't stop thinking about. The ones where I got close enough to see what was inside, where I stayed instead of leaving, where I decided curiosity was worth one more step. In those versions, I don't think I'm the one making a phone call from a crowded parking lot. Whatever was in that duffel-shaped bundle, whatever those men were doing out there with their lights off and their timing that precise, I came closer than I like to admit to walking straight into the middle of it. Instead, I left. And now, on nights when I'm the only car on a dark stretch of road, and I see something lying ahead that doesn't belong there, I feel that cold weight settle in again. Some things on the highway are accidents, some are traps. You don't always get to know which is which, but if you're lucky, you get one chance to decide how close you really need to get to find out. If you want more stories from out here, you can subscribe. And thank you for giving me the chance to tell you another one.